Today's plan was to carve a fish and then add the patterns to it. And I wanted the fish to be in a plate to that way. I wanted to have two different subjects to the project in a way. I felt that would be make it more interesting. And so the first portion of this video, I'm drawing as much of the detail as I can, and I'm trying to do this in a structured way. Because the goal here with this drawing is mostly to better understand the space and how I would like the fish to ideally look like. But I knew from the very beginning that most of this drawing would immediately get carved away. But by drawing it this precisely from the beginning, carrying over lines over from one face to the other, I felt like I was having a better plan, and that no matter what the portion that would be carved away would look good with the rest, and it would be easier to carry over the rest and fiddle with it once the first face would be carved very well. So the first section I carved away was everything above the plate that isn't part of the fish. That's because I have two subjects. I decided that I would start with a fish and leave just the block portion of the plate. That way I had more. That way I could focus on the fish and then do the plate, and be certain that I had a good foundation for the plate. So basically, every material from the top all the way to the plate I would remove if it wasn't directly part of the fish. This was to lay a good foundation for it all. This portion was a bit hard to get good angles on the portions I wanted to carve away. That was the harder part. And the wood didn't really want to be removed all the way to the bottom. Want is a strong word. It's a piece of wood. It's inanimate. But even though it was different, I did end up finding new ways to attack the wood to remove the portions I wanted to remove. So it's not it was a bit of struggle, but that's kind of always the case with those carvings. I'm starting to notice that I've been saying that each piece was a struggle, but I feel like that's a good thing because I feel like I'm getting better, but I always feel like what I'm doing is a struggle, which to me is a good thing because it means that I'm not necessarily accurately gauging, but I am scaling up the difficulty of the projects fast enough that it doesn't get boring, that it doesn't get too easy and too comfortable. I wouldn't want to get too comfortable with a process, not because it's bad to be comfortable, but more because if I get too comfortable with a process, I might start not getting lazy, but getting complacent. As long as I'm staying in this sweet spot where I'm always somewhat struggling, but always happy with what I'm doing, I feel like I'm going to be able to stay in that progress zone longer. I think that the moment I start getting too comfortable with a specific mood or type of carving, that I would stop trying to progress, that would just stay in that niche or something. But that's not really what I want. I want to improve. So it's good to experiment. And here the experiment was basically what would happen if I tried to have two subjects in a way, the bowl slash plate and the fish. The second side, as usual, was harder than the first one. That's a recurring theme when I'm trying to do something vaguely symmetrical. I think it's because by the time I'm done with one side, I fell into a rhythm, but the angle of attack on the other side is so different that it throws me off and makes it harder to work on that second side than it felt at the end of the first side. Which, because, well, I had the reflex of trying the same technique that I was using on the first side, but it can't work the exact same because the shape I'm trying to do is different by virtue of the different angle I'm holding the piece compared to the blade. So even though it's the same shape, it isn't the same shape for the blade itself. I'm not sure I'm explaining that correctly. It sounds confusing, I think, but I don't really know how else to say it. And with that, we've now reached the second portion of the carving process. This piece was made within 4 streams. The first 3 streams were just the carving process. The final stream was a bit of detailing that I've mostly left out of the video because it was just going back and removing tiny chips here and there that felt not as useful to leave. But the final stream was mostly the wood burning process, which I was a bit light on this time. But I'm trying to use the wood burner a bit more because I feel like I've neglected it. It's and I'm going to try to think more about how I could use the wood burner in my projects because I really feel like I have not used it nearly enough. Because it's really good at adding small highlights and things, and I feel like the the pieces I like the most that I have made were the ones that have been detailed further with wood burning. So even if it was just a tiny detail like my first chicken with its size that popped out really well, or the toad that only had a few squiggly lines and dots to represent the warts, the ones that I like the most are the ones that have wood burnt details. They had just a really strong contrast that I really love. So I'm going to try to. I don't want to go overboard and have the piece overwhelmed by the wood burner, but I want to use it more. So we'll see what it'll do. I already have a bit of a plan for that with my my next project for Halloween. I'm going to be. I already have plans to use the wood burner and practice detailing precise shape with that, because so far I've mostly done patterns or that where any mistake would be hidden in the hole, so it wouldn't matter. But I want to practice more precise and separate detailing, which isn't what I've done with this fish. I'm just talking what I'm going to want to practice. And now I'm starting to carve away the bottom of the plate. I felt like I had a good enough grip on what I'd done for the top of the fish, but I realized that since the corners would be rounded off, there was a section that was having difficulty carving away from the top of the plate that wouldn't be there anyway. So I decided to do the bottom of the plate and then carve out the corner so that I would no longer have to worry about those sections I was having trouble with. So I'm using here, instead of a knife, I'm using a chisel, a rounded chisel. That way the curve of the chisel would be left behind on the bottom in a way that I felt looked nice. Or, well, I hoped it would look nice before I did it, and now I know it looks pretty nice. Though, because it's on the bottom, we don't see it much unless we look at it from below purposefully. But it does add a lot of depth to have a somewhat detailed plate like this. And something I'm going to mention now because I'm thinking of it now and I'm may forget it later. Um, the initial plan was to add patterning also to the plate, but while using the wood burner, but while I was using the wood burner for the fish, I thought that it would be better, I think, for the fish portion and the plate portion to be very, very distinct from one another. And if I had added patterns with the wood burner on the plate and on the fish, they would become samey in a way. So I decided that once I have a proper painting location in my home, that I would paint only the plate and leave the fish only with some wood burning. That way, both portions of the project would have a lot of contrast, both within itself, so the plate would have sections only clear wood and some sections painted in a pattern, but also between one another, one with a wood burning and one with a paint. I've not yet done the paint. It's probably going to have to wait somewhere probably in later this year, or maybe in 2025. It's hard to say. I have the portion of my home that I'm planning to use for painting, the section I'm going to label. I'm allowing myself to dirty it. Basically, it's just a place where it doesn't matter if you make stains with the paint. It doesn't matter if I scratch a surface or something. It's going to be a workshop location, because right now I'm in an office and it's not really conducive to painting, I feel like, so I don't really want to do it here. But before that I have some renovations to do there, and then I have to add a desk and other things that I have to set up. So it's not really ready yet, and some of that timeline is not really defined yet because I don't know which desk I want to add, if the budget I'm going to have, because the renovations are costly, and I'm not sure exactly when I'm going to be having the leeway to start painting. But I've already planned a lot of paintings. I have purchased canvas. I have not purchased paint yet because it does have somewhat of an expiration date. But I'm really excited at the prospect, and I'm eagerly waiting this section of workshop being done so that I can start painting again. I'd done a bit of painting in high school, but I've not really had the chance to paint a lot since then, so I would like to go back to that. So we're now in the third section, the section that was filmed during the third stream. This one, I finished the rough portion of the fish, so I carved mostly the final shape. So the front bit of the fish was sharpened into head. That's what we're seeing right now. And the side sections were removed to leave room for the fins, both the top fin and the side fins. It was a really involved process that was somewhat hard to keep track of, because at that point I had basically no drawings left. But because of how well I'd planned the initial carving, it felt somewhat easy to figure out where everything went as I went. So I didn't feel the need to draw sections I needed to carve as I went. I was confident enough to trace them with a knife, even though I wasn't certain where everything went. I was confident enough to go at it with a knife directly, not bothering tracing the fins a second time. So the drawing process that I done at the beginning was not a waste of time. It did help a lot at this point here. What I do have some nitpicks though. I feel like I left the back of the fish too large. The dorsal fin is a bit small for my taste, but nothing is perfect, of course. No one's perfect, and I'm still very happy with this project, but that's. I'm here to nitpick, so I'm nitpicking. So far, other than wood carving on my channel, you've not seen much, but I am planning to add new other types of art. You may have seen the one knitting, crocheting video I've made. I am planning. I have n- crocheting project ongoing right now. It's just hard to finish, and I'm not. But eventually, I'm going to start publishing also my the crocheting process that I've of those art pieces too, and then once I have a workshop, I'm going to start painting. So it's a bright future on the horizon. Once I have the workshop, I don't know exactly how I'm going to be painting. I don't know if I'm going to paint on stream or off stream, or if I'm going to alternate with carving and painting, because I don't really want to. I would like to keep wood carving once a week as just to keep that would be the main thing, and then painting I would do in my free time, still on camera, but not live. I would do it more casually, let's say, because well, there for painting there is a lot of waiting for the paint to dry that I don't think would be fun to wait for on stream. So, but it would be edited a lot less heavily because here with the wood carving process, we're not losing much, I think, with the level of cutting I do in the editing. But I feel like if I was going that harshly with the painting, we'd lose a lot of the process. So I'm probably going to have a much lighter touch at that point. Here, carving the underside of the fins was a bit of a struggle. It went fairly well. I didn't break anything at that point, but it was a really good at that specific stage of carving. Once I was doing the underside of the fins, I felt really good about this project. It really felt like it was coming together really nicely at that point. The flattening the top of the plate and making a groove around the fish in that area give it really that a really good feeling of dimension of depth. I felt like so I was really happy about it because I was happy about it before then, but it felt really good reaching that point of the project. And here I'm carving a bit of the tail. I've cut it from this edited video, but I did break a bit of the tail here, but I glued it back on later, so it didn't feel necessary to show it. Just a mention felt like enough. So here we're in the fourth stream. The only part of the detailing that I'm showing is here where I rounded off the edges of the plate a bit to make them a little bit less sharp. But other than that, it was a bit boring with a bit of detailing I did. So for the fourth stream, here I'm drawing the foundation of the pattern I'm trying to make. I decided to just do highlight lines that follow the body of the fish. I felt like that would give it just a bit more depth. So other than those lines, I have only the eye and the eyes of the fish and the gills that have been wood burned. Because I wanted to see what it would look like with just some highlight lines compared to some of the other wood burnt projects I've made where I detailed all of the scales. I felt like a more understated wood burning here. Only some highlight lines would maybe be better. I don't know if it's better per se. It feels not boring, but it feels a little less intense, is what I would say. It's not bad, it's just different in a way I'm not certain I like. I like the project as a whole, but compared to my other projects, I'm not as confident in this one, is how I would describe it. A lot of conflicting feelings here, but that's not a bad thing. Conflicting feelings on a piece of art, I would like. I say is a good thing because that means I have room to grow, room to think, room to evolve. If I was certain I liked a thing, well, it's not bad. It's good that I'm certain I like a thing, but it's kind of boring. If I'm certain that I like a specific piece, then do I have room to grow for the next time I try to carve something similar? Maybe, but it feels sad to be fully confident in one thing. Sad is not the right word. It feels much better to have doubt in art. That's my opinion. So here I deviated a bit from what I traced. The initial plan for the line that went under the eye was to have it go to the tip of the fin. But here I felt like that was I wanted to leave the fins blank. So I had the line go to just underneath the dorsal fin instead, and made the line go from under the eye to under the side fins, and just tie them together. It just looked good in my eyes. I think I probably should have added some details to the side fins, but it would have been difficult to tie the new a different pattern just for the fins with the rest of the project, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's basically it. After this line I'm tracing here, that's the end of this project. It did come out fairly well. And with that, thank you for watching. Feel free to come by whenever you want. Bye.